This week's theme on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast is What I'm Reading Summer 2024 edition. I've curated some favorite articles, things I've stumbled upon recently that I think are relevant and useful for you. But they're topics that, aren't necessarily broad enough for an entire week's theme, but are still worth discussing. So today I'm looking at a question from the personal finance subreddit that I stumbled upon recently. So if you're not familiar with Reddit, it's a social media platform. Whereas Instagram and some of the others are more visually based, Reddit is like I read it. So it's more text based. People share pictures and other things on there too. But I love it because you can subscribe to threads on Reddit. It's kind of like a modern message board, and people will upvote certain responses, and it's great. There is a lot of dumpster fires and bad places you can be on Reddit, just like any other social media platform. But the comment section on certain posts are very informative and helpful. And one of them on the personal finance subreddit that I stumbled upon recently, I thought was absolute pure gold. So the original post and the original question says, my dad passed away 2 weeks ago. Both my parents have or had dementia, but my dad's was worse than my mom's. My dad had been in charge of all the financial stuff prior to his diagnosis, so I'm trying to find details on all of their accounts. He has random annuities and stuff all over the place. He created some notes about 10 years ago before his dementia set in, so I have some ideas where to look, but honestly a bit overwhelmed and afraid I might miss something big. Is there some way of doing a search for all accounts in his name? I have access to his email, but he doesn't seem to be getting electronic statements for most of his accounts. He's also not getting mailed statements. They did change addresses, and a lot of that, the son thinks, didn't get communicated. They've moved several times in the last 20 years. Also, he found an Excel file that had a list of passwords, but those are all wrong, and a lot of the user IDs are wrong. And so he's been just kind of sorting through that. He also said, I grabbed some paper statements out of their very disorganized files. Just wondering if there's a more consolidated way to do this searching than this ad hoc searching for clues in a dementia patient's piles of paperwork. There is a lot to unpack here, and unfortunately, this is a very common issue. Take note here because you don't want your own children to be in this position, but a lot of people, they just put it off, putting their wills in place. Even something as simple as getting a one-page sheet of paper and writing down, these are our accounts, bank accounts, investment accounts, insurance policies. Where are all of your assets? Where are they held? What financial institution, what bank accounts, etc. So that would probably take you 30 minutes or less, hopefully. But with that one simple document, at least the son would know where to look and not worried that he's missing $1 million insurance policy or something like that. So if you missed it, I read this twice before I realized the mom is still alive in this situation, but she has dementia too, and she's not really able to do anything. The issues are, no good filing or organization, no master list of accounts. The mail is unreliable because of the address change. The online accounts don't work because the passwords are locked out. Really messy. So if you're sorting through a family member's assets, maybe your own parents were in a similar situation, it sounds like it's going to be a mess either to this degree or less, hopefully less. But beyond the obvious things to do of going through their files, going through boxes, paperwork, if they have a safe, watching the mail, those are really great places to start, but it's also obvious things that you would want to do. But I found some other comments on Reddit on this thread were really, really helpful and actually really creative. So the first one is, even if you can't log into those online accounts, just knowing where to look, like there was an account at Prudential or there was a account at Wells Fargo in that list, at least you know where to look. Now, it will require often a lot of digging because if the son is not on the account, if he's not the account owner, which is pretty common, you can at least call and explain the situation and find out at least what they would require to talk to you. So usually a death certificate, that can get you pretty far in obtaining the information that you need. But each institution, each provider is going to be different in their requirements, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. The other suggestion that I absolutely love is if you can locate tax returns, that can provide a lot of clues. Now, sometimes taxes may not have been filed for many years, so that can be a dead end. But even if tax returns are a few years old, you can still get clues about where accounts are held because there are interest and dividends and other income that is reported. And again, that gives you a lot of clues there. There's also, I forget what it's called, but there's also a document you can get from the IRS directly that will provide you with a master list of all the companies that were reporting income on your behalf. My husband's a CPA. He was telling me about it. I forget what it is. But anyway, there's options there regarding the tax returns and taxes. Now, one Reddit user suggests that getting organized with all of this as you find things is very important. So, like, I found a password or a Bank of America on the password list. Okay, so enter that into a spreadsheet and enter all the accounts that you've found so far. This would include one, you know the name or you suspect there's an account somewhere, but maybe you haven't found the paperwork yet. And then you can kind of just have this master list of these various accounts and places to explore or things to check off. You can also go through the checkbook if they were writing checks, see what checks were written, or especially getting bank account statements or access to the bank accounts is really important because you can see what money was deposited and received, which again provides a lot of clues. Another one that I like is pulling a credit report if you can. So that's going to show various accounts. This is more on the debt side and not the asset side, but it will provide some additional clues. And one thing that I think is important to realize is that any financial institution where someone had a credit card, there's a good chance that they also had maybe a savings account or a checking account or some other account there too. So you can keep doing some digging at each of those institutions that you find on the credit report. Make sure you're aware of all the accounts. And of course, if you can find a will or attorney or business card for maybe a tax advisor or financial advisor, a lot of times they are aware, attorneys, estate attorneys, tax advisors, financial advisor, they're going to know the accounts. In my case, being a financial advisor, any client that we've done in-depth planning with, as long as they're honest with me and they're not holding back accounts, I know if they have other, an old 401k somewhere, or I know if they work with another advisor at another financial institution. So even if all the accounts are not there at that one location, that advisor still may be able to help with locating assets that might be in different places. A lot of people suggest unclaimed property databases. These can be helpful, but they're not a catch-all. Accounts will still go missing. And also the other problem is it can take years for assets to show up there. So it's something that, you may check a few years down the road, but it's not going to help you in the meantime if this is a recent death. All right. Thank you so much for listening today. My name is Ashley Mitchkay, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.